we didn't decide you were at Dollar Mountain, so we don't know where you are. But you have noticed nothing costs $1 anywhere around that mountain, on that mountain, or in any of the vicinities near the nothing. But it is Dollar Mountain.
No. Yes, that's right, Joe. You're right. The inappropriately named Dollar Mountain. We are over Sun Valley this morning, and we are here. And as you mentioned, we are joined by a very special guest, Warren Buffett. And Mr. Buffett, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good to be here.
It's great to see you. And we couldn't think of a better time to have you on, because there are so many questions about what's been happening with the economy, what's been happening with the jobs picture. Why don't you tell us what you're seeing right now in your businesses?
Well, I've got a little different story this time than for a couple of years I've been telling you that everything except residential housing was improving at a moderate rate, not crawling, but not galloping either, but that residential housing was flatlining. And the last 2 months it's been just sort of the opposite. The general economy in the United States has been more or less flat, and so the growth is tempered down. But the residential housing, we're seeing a pickup. And it's noticeable. It's from a very low base, and it doesn't amount to a whole lot yet, but it's getting better, and so you've kind of got a flip flop on that. And
well, what happened? When we talked in the past, you had said when housing turned, that would be when the U.S. economy would turn. What happened?
Well, it hasn't turned that much yet, but it is picking up. But at the same time, the rest of the economy, I would say, is slowing down. It's not heading downward, but it's not growing at the rate that it was earlier. And then it's kind of interesting in Europe. For a year or so, in most places, I mean, forget about Greece for the moment, but generally in Europe, you didn't have a big slowdown. You had a lot of worry and all of that. But in the last couple months in Europe, particularly in the last month, it's pretty much across Europe. Things have really started to slip pretty fast.
We've heard this from a lot of CEOs who have joined us in the last several weeks, but what business lines in particular do you look at, and do you see these things kind of popping up?
Well, I look at all of the businesses we have, and then I talk to people in other businesses, and it's pretty clear that that's what's going on right now. There's certain figures I can't tell you where I get them, but Europe is really it's headed downward in the last 6 weeks or so, and it wasn't going that way before. It wasn't doing that well, but it wasn't hitting. It hadn't really hit the skids.
Is that because of consumers or because of businesses? Confidence really slowing down and spending slowing down.
Yeah, well, spending's slowing down, and when spending slows down, business reacts. I mean, they're not seeing the same kind of spending, so they pull in their horns some.
What of the things that you can talk about, the numbers that you do see, concern you the most?
Well, it's pretty general, Becky. I mean, like I say, it has not turned down in the United States. I mean, our freight car loadings are up week by week. I normally get them today, but I'm not home. So, but last week, they're up. Although the eastern railroads were down moderately, a lot of that's coal. But nevertheless, just across the board, whether you're looking at our retail sales and jewelry or furniture or you name it, yards of carpet are down. Our carpet business is better. But on the other hand, if you look at, we're the largest home builder in the country, Clayton Homes, and that's up. Brick is picking up, but these are from low levels. But you are seeing in our real estate brokerage firm, which is the second largest in the country, pending sales are up by a reasonable amount, but from a very low base.
Well, with everything else, with not a reversal, but a slowdown in the growth, what happened? What happened 6 weeks ago to spook people, to spook businesses?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know the result. You can argue in Europe why it was delayed so long. I mean, because Europe has really been. You can see this coming for It was 2 years ago we sold all our Spanish and Italian and even French bonds. I mean, we're overly cautious probably, but that was 2 years ago. So Europe, with all this going on, it probably kept it from having any kind of gains, but it didn't really seem to sink in. But I would say the last couple of months, and with some acceleration, it's been hitting over there.
We've watched the jobs picture, and the last unemployment numbers at 8.2% from that last big government report last Friday. Is that a chicken and egg cycle? Are people watching the jobs number and getting spooked by it, or is the jobs number kind of?
Well, you're right. I mean, there is some circularity to it, but I don't know the answer as to exactly why it's happening, and I don't know what it'll be 3 months from now or 6 months from now, because 3 months ago I didn't know what it would be today. So, and the U.S. economy is doing better than virtually any big economy around the world. This economy has come back a long way, with the exception of housing, from where it was a few years ago, and you can see it in corporate profits. I thought it would take housing. I still think it would take housing coming back significantly to move us generally significantly upward, and I still think that's true. But so far, the little pickup in housing has not been near enough to offset whatever's going on in the world generally.
The Fed came out with their minutes yesterday, and obviously they're concerned about the economy. They say that they could step in to do something else, but I guess the question becomes, what would it take to get them to step in, and what could they do at that point?
Yeah, I have my own doubts. I'm sure Chairman Bernanke would disagree with me, and he knows a lot more about it than I do. But when you have interest rates down to zero, not only here but in the major countries in Europe, and you have a 15-year Treasury inflation protected so-called TIPS security selling at a negative yield. 15 years, people are willing to put their money out at a minus rate in real terms. That's about as far as you can go. I'm you can talk about more easing or that sort of thing, but the banks are sitting with enormous amounts of money at the Fed. They don't want to be sitting with that money at the Fed. I mean, it's bringing them 0.25% or so. You lose money on that money at the Fed, just from the bank standpoint. So they're not happy having that money at the Fed. They just aren't seeing that much demand for loans.
So,
although they're picking up a little, but it's nothing like people would like to see. I don't see what the Fed does that's dramatic.
Does that mean we're in a wait and see pattern?
To some extent, and then it also means that they shouldn't be bicycling like crazy at the Fed maybe they should be bicycling like crazy, but while Congress sits there on the sidelines and basically squabbles.
What should Congress be doing at this point? I mean, we're going to talk more with Simpson and Bowles a little later this morning, but you think that there's something that Congress should be doing right now?
Well, I think people have a feeling that Congress is inept and sort of paralyzed by the desire of each side to make the other side look bad. So I think that has got to be a factor in general confidence. If you see your government not functioning, it's not really it's not the biggest spur to activity that you can imagine.
Yeah, maybe not a confidence booster, so to speak.
So I think it's hard for the Fed to offset the Congress in terms of changing public opinion.
Okay, we're going to have more with Warren Buffett in just a moment, but Andrew, I know we have to cut in for a commercial break, so I'll send it back to you for that.
We will do that.